It's Thursday on Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Hope you guys are having a great day out there today. Little bit of a different show. I'm excited, though. Couple different guests. Velle E. Neal III will join me here in a little while. Our Daily Delivery debate section covering Vikings, Timberwolves, Gopher football. Good stuff with Velle. You can find all of those segments on our YouTube page as well, the Star Tribune YouTube page, as the week goes along. The surprise, I had Ben Goessling on as well, talked to him about the Matthew Stafford to the Vikings rumors that Ben was able to debunk from a source, but also still a little bit intriguing because when he looked at it, the money wasn't as outrageous as he might have thought. The fit wasn't as outrageous. But I'll give some thoughts on that after I talk to Ben. We're going to start with that here in just a moment here, eschewing our usual opening segment for an extended talk right here with Ben. It is rumor and innuendo season. You shot down the popular notion that the Vikings could be in pursuit of Matthew Stafford. Talk me through the process here. What happened and where are we at?
Yeah, I mean, this has been circulating the last couple days. I mean, and it's kind of one of those internet rumors that somebody's throwing out there. I think it's like a fantasy sports account that, people do this. And I get asked about it enough. And it's like, well, the money isn't impossible. I mean, after looking at it a little bit, it's like the money's not impossible. So let's just, send out a couple texts to people and say, hey, is there any chance of this happening? Mm-hmm. Is this crazy or not? And the response I got
crazy or is it quasi?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's like, are you going to go full Rams with Rams? So you check on that stuff, and the response I got back was pretty forceful. It said zero truth to that rumor. So put that out there today, and a lot of people are like, well, yeah, and there's no chance, obviously, that would happen. And I don't think there is much chance. I mean, if we did the money thing, they could afford it. It's a half-season rental. There's not really a huge cost to keep him or to cut him after this year. But, you're talking, what are they trading to get him? Probably that first-round pick, which is the last kind of real asset they have to trade right now. I don't think they're doing that, especially when you just, let's play this out. I mean, Sam Darnold is still their starting quarterback. Sam Darnold is playing, I think, fairly well. Can you win a championship with Sam Darnold? I think that's another question, but are they going to move off of Sam Darnold, trade the first-round pick for probably a rental with Matt Stafford when you have J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings and probably ready to go, possibly as a starting quarterback next year? That seems like a too cute by half maneuver for them. I mean, if you felt good enough about, hey, let's push all the chips in, then I think making a bold move at the deadline is one thing. Doing it at that position for a quarterback that's 36 years old, that's making quite a bit of money, I think, is a more complicating factor. So, you put pieces together. Kevin O'Connell obviously was the OC in LA when he won a Super Bowl, when Matt Stafford won the Super Bowl there. Kevin O'Connell was the OC when they make the trade to get Matt Stafford from Detroit. There's all that history, yes, but the forcefulness with which I heard it today, I'm fairly inclined to believe that. This is not somebody that would be that forceful for no reason. I'm getting it from a place I trust. So that level of vehemence in the denial, I think, is it's convincing to me, at least at this point.
Doesn't seem to me like their roster is good enough, even if you upgraded a quarterback. I don't feel like this is a Super Bowl team, and maybe I'm wrong. Like they've certainly looked the part for a while, but like let's go back to the beginning of the season. Like projections said this is like a 7 or an 8 win team. Like this is obviously the narrative has changed, and some of the pieces they brought in have been like the sum of the parts. The whole is greater than some of the parts in some of these cases, especially where the defense fits together. But I'm not looking at this roster and saying they're a step up at quarterback away from making a Super Bowl run. It just feels like it would be a lot to ask of the assets you would have to give up.
Well, yeah, and it's the question of, I mean, you could look at this and say the NFC is wide open. The 49ers are not playing like they have. Who else do you really trust in the NFC, probably other than the Lions? I think you could make that argument. Sure. But you also need a lot of people to stay healthy that are not 23 years old. I mean, you need Stephon Gilmore, you need Harrison Smith, you need Aaron Jones to stay healthy. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that has to go their way for a long time yet. So is it possible they make a run? I don't think they have done enough to surprise me and impress me through 6 games that I think they could make some noise in the NFC. I think that's different than saying we are all in. This is the team. There is no reason to hold back, burn the boats. We're going all in, whatever cliche you want to use. Mm-hmm. I don't know that you look at it that way with this group, especially when you could, I think, project 3 years out, 2 years out, whatever, and say there's a chance that we're in that boat if J.J. McCarthy pans out, if some of your young players, Dallas Turner, continues to get better, if they are able to add corners, young corners through the draft or through free agency, they're going to have a lot of money to spend as well. So I would think that if you're talking, I mean, time horizons, Goessling talks about this quite a bit. What's the window to win? I think the window is coming open, but I don't know that you would look at it and say, let's sacrifice anything and everything for this particular team and this particular run. I mean, they did not do that, at least to the fullest possible degree 2 years ago. Yes, they made the trade for Hockenson, but it wasn't, let's trade everything. Yeah. Let's trade a first-round pick, and let's just push all the chips in for probably a similar team. This is a better defense. I think that was maybe a little bit better offense at that time, especially after they added Hockenson, and you're not seeing a team say, hey, we have to just cash all the chips in for right now either. So I could see them getting aggressive. I wouldn't rule that out. I wouldn't rule out trading the first-round pick. But like I say, I don't know that a quarterback at this point, I mean, put it this way. If you traded the first-round pick for Matt Stafford, you have basically taken 2 first-round picks on quarterbacks in the same year. You have spent your 2024 first-round pick on a quarterback and your 2025 first-round pick on a quarterback. So that seems a little rash to me for how they would operate. I don't think that this particular set of circumstances makes a ton of sense for that to happen. And, again, whatever I think or whatever, calculus we can do here is one thing, but when you have people saying there's zero truth to this, I do think that carries a lot of weight here.
Now, the NFL trade deadline has become more interesting. It used to be there were like 4 trades, nothing much happening. It's become a lot more active. You've seen a bunch of wide receivers changing teams. I think you just saw DeAndre Hopkins just got traded. A bunch of other guys. Cooper got traded.
Getting the band back together.
The Adams getting the band back together. I don't know how that's going to work out for.
That's the next guy coming in there probably.
That's maybe the argument. The Jets are the argument for not pushing all the chips in. The Jets are the argument for not putting all the chips in.
But, you treat it like The Last Dance. I don't know if this is what dance number this is at this point.
I don't know. Not good. Not good dance.
It's not the first dance. We know that. There've been a few dances by this point, and it's not going great.
You're not immune to dances. If they're not going after Stafford, what makes sense with the resources they have? Like if you think, hey, maybe a move, like what position would you look at outside of quarterback, which, however we think that, there's something maybe to how well this game goes Thursday, which makes it a whole nother subplot, right? Like, hey, by the way, you're in LA, you are chasing this rumor to its core because you are going to be at SoFi on Thursday night watching presumably Matt Stafford play against these Vikings. But how this game goes for Sam Darnold could have some bearing in how we think about all this. But pushing that aside, what what area says to you, hey, they could make a meaningful upgrade here and it could push them, closer to where they want to go?
Yeah, I would look at two spots on defense, first of all. I would say defensive tackle. If you can find somebody there that can help kind of plug up the middle. I mean, I think Harrison Phillips has played really well. I think Harrison Phillips had some moments on Sunday where he was awfully disruptive. And I think he's done a lot of things that they've liked, and they obviously rewarded him with a contract as part of that. But having another big guy in the middle, I think, would help a lot. I would look there. And I think corner. The cornerback position is a major concern beyond this year. They have been able to do it this year, but Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin, and Byron Murphy Jr. are all free agents after this year. They could re-sign Byron Murphy. They could really re-sign any of those guys, I suppose. But you're not guaranteed to do that, and none of those guys are, 22, 23 years old. And not that you're necessarily going to make a trade for one either, but if you get a 25-year-old corner in a trade, I think that would make a lot of sense. Now, a lot of teams aren't trying to give those types of players away, so that may be a big investment there. But, if you spent let's call it pick number 29 or 30, and yes, I realize that means they lose another NFC Championship game. We don't need to get
yes.
Whatever. I think we did this on Access Vikings last week. Let's have fun. Let's call it pick 32, whatever.
There you go, pick 32.
If you got a corner that helped you this year and was somebody you could plug in for future years at pick 32, I think you take that. I mean, that's a pretty good return on investment for pick 32. It would be a better return on investment than the last time they spent pick 32 in the defensive backfield. I beat you to the joke.
Oh, Lewis Cine. That's right. Yeah.
It's the Lewis Cine joke. But I would look at those two. And then I also think running back, that's probably not as expensive, but if
they already added one though, they already added Akers.
They added Akers, yes, but if they could find, if there's another piece there, and maybe Akers is enough, but if just adding another guy there in case Aaron Jones would go down, I don't think that's not a super expensive thing to do. But if there's something there that they could continue to add depth there, I don't think that's a bad idea. Fourth wide receiver, I suppose.
I was thinking wide receiver. I was definitely thinking wide receiver, but yeah.
You could think about that, but I would say defensive tackle and corner would be the places I would start.
Okay. Not quarterback, though. We're
quarterback. I said cornerback.
I know. You said cornerback, not quarterback.
Correct.
You would be like, this is basically, you have enough faith in your sourcing that you're basically like, this ends here. This rumor ends here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think there's much reason to spend a ton of time on it. I mean, and maybe I'll be wrong on that. And if I am, I think somebody already tagged Old Tags Exposed. So
there you go.
The receipts are there, and I'll eat it if I'm wrong. But no, I don't think there's much reason to spend a ton of time on this one. I think they are still very excited about J.J. McCarthy for the future, and that changes a lot of these calculations.
Yeah, for sure. Well, could be a fun election day. That's the trade deadline also. I don't know why the NFL do that. Why'd they do that? Did they not realize that other things are happening in the world? Or they just operate in their little cocoon so much that...
Well, I mean, I suppose they figure, I don't know if they operate in their cocoon or if it's like just a total hubris thing of like, we've taken over Christmas, we've taken over Thanksgiving, we kicked the NBA out of Christmas, we took over Black Friday, we are moving the Super Bowl.
We're coming for President's Day.
The President's Day weekend. We've taken over New Year's a lot of times with football. What's left to take over? You know what? Let's take down election. I mean, if you want to command the cycle, Roger Goodell is not on the ballot officially, but maybe this is his way of saying, if I wanted to run, I can get enough attention that maybe I would someday. I don't know, but it is a bit silly. And for those of us in a newspaper, the good thing is that the deadline is 3:00 so that we can get all the stories filed before all of the election coverage comes in and all of the pizza is ordered for the people in the newsroom that work on deadline.
A lot of pizza. A lot of pizza. A lot of pizza consumed that night. Yep. That is the one thing we know will happen on November 5th.
A lot of congratulatory emails, a lot of pizza. I don't think I'm getting one tomorrow night. I'm on a red eye back, but
oh man, are you really?
I don't know if I get a congratulatory.
You're doing a red eye? Oh man,
I'm doing a red eye home. Yes, it's. I mean, these West Coast games, it's always like you do that, or you do the 6 a.m. and you're back at noon. You've wasted half the day. It's like you're not going to sleep before a 6 a.m. flight either. So I figured, let's just.
That's true. Took a very bleary-eyed ride to LAX and about 2 hours of sleep one time. So I feel that. I was
not up for that. I mean, and I think I'm doing the early morning SeaTac flight in December.
Okay.
I don't think I'm doing a red eye on that one, and that'll be like December 23rd or 24th. I think it's December 23rd. So maybe I'll look at that one. Maybe I'll go back to a red eye on that one too, just to get out of the airport before one of the busy travel days of the year. So I figured, last road trip, I tried to sleep on a plane. So
not great.
I'll do that in London.
All right, Ben. We'll appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Now, like I said with Ben, it'll be interesting if this narrative changes at all based on what happens in tonight's game. What makes this especially fascinating and fun is the Vikings play the Rams tonight, right? Like Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford tonight at SoFi in California. Vikings win, they'll go to 6-1. They lose, they'll be 5-2, still in good shape, but some questions could emerge based on how tonight goes. So let's see if the narrative changes at all in either direction coming off of tonight's game before we get too ahead of ourselves or, before we put too much of this to bed. Let's see how tonight's game goes. One thing I will say, if you look at total QBR, the ESPN metric for quarterbacks, Sam Darnold 18th this year, which is middle of the pack. Matthew Stafford 19th. So are you getting an upgrade at this stage of their career? Matthew Stafford on the back end of his career. Sam Darnold should be kind of in the prime of his career, or at least still with room to ascend. He's only 27. So if you think about that, if you think about kind of where they are in their careers, I don't even know if this makes sense totally from a football standpoint, if they were to even consider it, which, as Ben reports, they are not. So I don't know. Just a fun subplot for tonight's game. Not much else to it, but I appreciate Ben hopping on to give some context and some clarity to the Matthew Stafford rumors. All that said, like I just said, I think this is a big game for Sam Darnold for a number of reasons. His performance has declined over the last 2.5 games, so I think the narrative on him is changing. Makes me wonder how big tonight's game is in his context and the Vikings context. Velle E, Neal III and I will get into that right after the break. It's daily delivery debate time with Velle E, Neal III. Got a lot to get to, Velle. I cut a few from this roster, so there's a lot to get to today.
No, I love this time of year, though. You got football in full swing, hoops, hockey, local colleges. This is one of the best times of the year for a sports fan. Yep. Agreed.
One of the best times of the year. Feels like we went seamlessly from Lynx controversy to Timberwolves opener on Tuesday. I want to start there. We're going to get to some Vikings and some Gopher football in our 3 daily delivery debate topics. But first up, Velle, Wolves didn't look good Tuesday. Looked clunky, as we like to say. The ball got sticky, as head coach Chris Finch likes to say. What's your concern level off of one game?
I was in the press conference, preseason presser, when Finchy used the word sticky for the first time. And he talked about everything looked good offensively. There was a good flow. There's a good rhythm and pace. But once the regular season starts and stats become official, players forget about all the good stuff they're doing in preseason. So I'm pretty sure that's going to get worked out. But and the other thing, too, he pointed out, it takes 20 games in the NBA just because you don't have a lot of time to have full practices. It takes about 20 games in the NBA to figure out what you guys are a team, to have the new pieces blend in, and to see how things are going to go offensively and defensively that way. So I think we're going to have to keep that in consideration too. I mean, that's tough to do in the Western Conference. There's so many good teams. There's so much talent, and you see the energy that the Lakers played with last night, which looked a lot higher than the Wolves at times, which is very concerning. But we saw what the Wolves need to work on. One, I think Julius Randle is still acclimating himself to how they do things here. Offensively, he's got to find his spots and find other people. I thought he put up some awkward shots. Two, defensively, I thought he was a little bit of a hot mess at times. So, but I think defensively was the one thing that jumped out at me last night, that the Doberman defense looked like a pack of released corgis on the basketball court, just kind of running around aimlessly at times. Backdoor plays, alley-oops. The two-man game between Anthony Davis and LeBron was on point. I was ridiculous. Davis looks like he's ready to have a huge year and possibly challenge for MVP. I know that's a lot to say after one game, but it was really impressive. He was hitting shots with Gobert in his face. He was driving to the basket. The mid-range game was on point, and of course the finishing at the rim. And part of me wanted to say, man, I wonder if he would have had that ability to attack the rim if Towns was there with Gobert to form the Twin Towers. But I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there because this is going to be a different team. We knew it was going to be different when they moved, and hopefully the depth that they do have, because when the second unit came in, they did some things. Conley, I don't think scored till the fourth quarter. I think that's right.
Conley was, I'll get to Conley in a minute. He was bad.
So I'm not ready to hit the panic button. Not game one, not in game one of the 82 game season by any means. I also believe in Chris Finch's ability to make adjustments and get the players to buy into those adjustments. So we just see what they need to work on. We've seen how the new bits fit. I was hoping to see Terrence Shannon Jr. play a little bit more.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute too. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Randall wasn't good. He's still acclimating. He hadn't not played a regular season NBA game in 9 months, and he's with a new team after joining him 3 weeks ago. So I'm going to give that a little bit of time. And even so, he was still, I think, a +2. Like he wasn't necessarily the problem. My level of concern, we say every year, be patient. 1 of 82. And then we forget about that, right? But here's the thing. Here's two things I'm really concerned about. One, Mike Conley Jr. was not good, and that if you look at players of his age can fall off a cliff sometimes really fast. He was terrible in the first half, a lot of turnovers, didn't take a shot in the first half. He was a -21. So I don't want to see that continue. Two, Jaden McDaniels, 5 fouls and I think 16 minutes. Like he's too far along in his career now. This is year 5 for him. He's too far along now for him to be making those silly fouls, for him to be struggling with this again. They need him to be one of their best players. So
they gave them the bag too. I mean, he's making a pretty penny.
Yes. Yeah, he got five for 135. He's making like 27 a year. Like he's got to
be a two-way player. I know a lot of issues were on defense, but he also has to put the ball in the bucket a little bit more.
Yeah. So I think the Lakers might end up being a bad matchup for them this year because Davis is just a handful, LeBron's a handful, and they are built now not to beat the Lakers and Denver, but to beat Dallas and Oklahoma City, who I presume they think are the real threats in the West, because they've loaded up on wings who can defend more so than Twin Towers in the paint. So I feel like they are better suited to play those teams. They might struggle against Denver a little bit this year. They might struggle a little bit against the Lakers this year, but we got to see them over a fuller stretch with these guys acclimated. I think DiVincenzo fits in just fine. Randall's going to take a while. I'm not panicking. I didn't love what I saw out of some of the other guys, not the newer guys.
I agree. Dante was he's a -2 and a plus-minus, I think.
-5. Yeah, -5. Yeah, he was okay, though.
Buckets, so Nickeil Alexander-Walker was affected off the bench.
He was great. He was great, yeah.
I thought he was going to be the one that was going to be marginalized a little bit going into the season by the off-season acquisitions, but apparently he's going to try to raise his game. Once again, one game you can't already have your narrative drawn after one game, but Conley was -22. My God, yeah, Gobert was -10. Hopefully this isn't a sign of the demise of Mike Conley.
I hope not. We got to give him more than one game. But here's the thing, though. They've got options. Like, why does Ant have to play 41 minutes in the opener? Why? Joe Ingles is the 9th guy. That's fine. He kind of gave him some steadying stuff. But they got options like Garza can go in and play. They got 2 rookies who can go in and play. Josh Minot, by all accounts, was giving them a lot in the preseason. Like the energy they lacked in Tuesday's game, I feel like they might have been better served with some youth off the bench. So I want to see how Finch deploys his his wealth of players more as the season goes on.
I want to see how I think Ant's game is going to evolve a little bit more as the season goes along. He shot a lot of threes yesterday, and I think he's got more confidence in that jumper. That's great. But, man, it's a beautiful thing when he attacks the rim and finishes. You would think that being able to hit the three more consistently would open up things for him. People worrying about the three gives him driving lanes. And the other thing, too, we saw, especially this is on Rando a little bit, too, is that down the stretch when the Wolves were starting to threat a little bit in the fourth quarter, the double team came, and they got to be ready to move the ball quicker than they did. And Ant's got to recognize it quicker and maybe beat it. And that just wasn't there. So we just saw a team that, to me, everything that Chris Finch said to us in the press about the ball being sticky, you need 20 games, I saw right there in that game against the Lakers.
Yeah, they told us wait 20 games 2 years ago, and it didn't smooth after 82. So we'll see how they are after 20 this year.
Last year's a beautiful
last year was great. I'm saying 2 years ago, we said, hey, give Towns and Gobert 20 games to get acclimated, and it never really happened. Of course, Towns got hurt. There was a lot going on 2 years ago. So we'll withhold judgment until December, and then we'll see where we are on this. But they need to be better against Sacramento on Thursday. Lavelle, second subject. Speaking of Thursday, Vikings travel west to play the Rams. Feels like a bad time to do this. They're coming off their first loss of the year. Short week. Got to travel. Got to play at night. So their body clock is going to tell them it's like 9 o'clock, 9:30 by the time this thing starts. What must win for the Vikings? I'm framing it as such in certain ways, but I want to hear why you think yes or no on that.
I'm going to go no. I'm not panicking over the Vikings situation after one loss. Even if they lose on Thursday, they'll be 5-2. Here's the thing that really benefits them down the stretch here. They faced better teams the first 5 games of the year than they will the next 5 games.
Yes, that's true.
And they also faced some of the better pass defenses. As much as the hot garbage I think the Jets are, they do have a good defense. They also faced some of the tougher defenses in the league. They got a lot of teams whose passing rankings are like in the bottom half of the league coming up here. After they're home against Indianapolis after the Rams game, which will be a mini bye, preparing for Anthony Richardson. That's a winnable game. At Jacksonville, anybody who plays Jacksonville has a chance to win that day. At Tennessee, that's a winnable game. Chicago looks interesting now because the Bears are 5-2 or 4-2, and they're rolling pretty good right now. That could be an interesting game, but that'll also be like the Bears' first above a serious opponent too. So it's going to be an intriguing game on Fox. I wouldn't be surprised that gets flipped to 3 o'clock. Yeah, 3 o'clock start. Home against Arizona, winnable game.
Oh yeah.
Then you got the Kirk Cousins homecoming against Atlanta. That could go either way.
That's a winnable game though. I don't think the Falcons are that good. That's a winnable game.
We'll see what Cousins does because he's practicing against B-Flow. So let's see what Kirk has to start.
And B-Flow is practiced against him. So there you go.
Too. But the man threw for 509 yards in the game. Once you do that, I'm like, okay, look out. Then you're home against Chicago. At Seattle when they beat Green Bay at Green Bay. They got Green Bay. Then you got Detroit, Detroit's a tough out, but I've watched Detroit also have clunkers at home. Yeah. So that's not a slam dunk. You got Vegas, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. Mike, we're looking at 13 wins.
They could be.
We're looking at 13 wins this team.
Okay, here's why I think it is a must win, because I feel like it's a vibe check, because I feel like the result on the vibes were worse than the result on Sunday. I feel like there's more questions about Sam Darnold now. I feel like if he has another mediocre game and they lose to the Rams, there's going to be even more questions, and there's no answers behind him. I think the question would be if they lose this game Thursday and he plays okay to bad, there would be questions if J.J. McCarthy was healthy. Is this time to make the switch? Things like that. There's nobody behind him, so I don't think he has to worry about that. You're not going to bring in Nick Mullins, but there's no cavalry coming. If you start to feel like you're slipping at the quarterback position and you don't have that kind of solid play you need, that's why I feel like this is a reaffirmation game, maybe more than a must win. It's a reaffirmation game of what they want to do with Sam Darnold this year.
You're saying this is a referendum with Sam Darnold more, so this
kind of
Vikings,
kind of
right?
It is.
He can play well and they could lose. Would you feel better after that? Yeah,
I wouldn't feel great about. I'd feel better about their long term. If he played well, because I just don't feel like he's played well for the last 2.5, 3 games. He was okay. We're not blaming him all for what happened against the Lions, but missed some throws, missed some opportunities, didn't get it done when they needed to close that game out.
His fourth quarter wasn't great at all.
Fourth quarter wasn't great. So, I feel like it's a vibe check more than it is a reality check for the Vikings.
Yeah, I get that. I get where I come from, but I love fans. Oh, someone was like wondering could they trade for Stafford?
Come on.
I'm like, come on. We
trade with what? They have a first-round pick and 2 fifth-round picks next year. That is their entire draft class next year.
There are moments where we need to ban social media. We should just take it off the internet.
That'd be fine.
After some sporting events, because the stuff about the Quezzy furiously working the phones to try to make it a deal. I was like, with what?
With what? Yeah. With what? Their first round pick? Is that what they're going to do?
How far are we going out with this? I mean, I don't know. I would just be panicking to me. So no, I don't think that's going to happen. And
no,
overall, Sam has been above average.
He has been.
He's been reshaping his narrative. And I got one of my friends is mad at me because my last paragraph of my story, I said, I'd have Sam ranked fourth in the current power rankings in NFC North quarterbacks. I'd have him fourth because Caleb Williams is on the rise. I mean, he wanted to scream strength of schedule. I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's who you play, but not when you play them. When you catch the team at the right time. But I'm not ready to just all of a sudden anoint Sam Darnold as a great quarterback after he failed in New York, failed in Carolina, and has had 3.5 good games for the Vikings. That's what we're going on.
Yeah.
So
it's a narrative game for him. It's a vibe game for him. They could lose and be fine in the standings. I get that.
And Rams will be healthier too.
Yes, they got Cooper Kupp back. Sounds like so. We'll see. It's a big game for the Rams if they plan on getting back into the race. Don't love the timing of this game, but we'll see. Last thing, Lavelle, Gopher football 4-3 going into Saturday's game against Maryland. Mm-hmm. Maryland kind of in the same boat. I think 4-3 overall. Maybe they have a little less in the Big Ten. Kind of another game where if you are serious about having a decent season, if you're the Gophers, you kind of got to have this one. They've saved their season, changed the narrative with wins over USC and UCLA. How many wins? They got 5 games left. How many wins do they need to get in these next 5 for you to consider it a successful season?
Oh, boy. That's a good question. So it's Maryland, right?
Maryland this weekend, and then after that they've got Illinois, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and Penn State after that.
Well, I think Maryland's a winnable game. I think Rutgers is a winnable game. I think Kalakamaka's homecoming.
Right.
Well, they're going to visit him.
They're going to visit him, yeah.
Visiting coming, or whatever you want to call it. Visit. Illinois is going to be an interesting game. I can't complain because the Star Tribune is sending me to Champaign for that game.
There you
go. I don't know. We haven't had a Gopher road coverage for a columnist in a while, and I haven't been on Illinois campus in 35 years. So
wow,
that's going to be very interesting. And Illinois is playing a lot better. I can't believe they gave up 49 to Purdue, but then they bounced back and beat Michigan.
They still won though. They still beat Purdue.
So that's going to be a tough game for the Gophers. That could determine how big of a bowl game they're going to go to. And then after that, they got Wisconsin. I want to hope. I keep wanting to believe that the Wisconsin is a game that the Vikings could pull up an upset in.
The Gophers, yes.
Yeah, the Gophers could. Sorry,
I think the Vikings could beat Wisconsin, but yeah, the Gophers. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Wisconsin game was one the Gophers could probably surprise in. It's going to be up to the defense. I'm starting to trust Max Brosmer a little bit more, and I know it's not like he's putting up huge numbers, and I know his yards per attempt aren't that sparkling, but he's not making mistakes, and
he's good.
He's being safe. He's been solid. He's got Daniel Jackson, who's I think a pretty good wide receiver.
Too.
So, and again, you got to make sure the running game is still on point. But once again, the way they responded against USC tells you what this team can do on a given night. Penn State, pack a lunch for that one. So. Yeah. What 3 possible wins that I just mentioned?
Maryland, you got Rutgers. Maryland, Rutgers, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Out of those, Penn State's here, so it's not like it's out of the question. But how many of those?
Lock for 2 wins. That would put them at 6-3, and
6 total. Yeah,
and the 6-4. Sorry, right? Yeah, and the Wisconsin game will end up being the game of the year for them.
It might be.
Yeah, it might be. Wow, I didn't just realize that.
So to me, they've got to get to 7 for this to be a successful year. That's kind of where I've been from the start. 6-6 gets you bowl eligible. Still doesn't feel like it's quite enough for me to be satisfied with the year. If you get to 7, then it's a good year. I
admit it. I mean, I was going around before the season started saying, how are you going to feel when PJ coughs up 3 or 4 wins this year? Like, it's not going to be that bad. Because going into the year, unknowns about Brosmer, unknowns about how much bite the defense had. I think it was justified. But this team's evolved. Coy Parrish is going to be a force.
Yes.
How many years he's going to play at Minnesota for someone to offer him like $1 million to play somewhere else?
He's from here. We'll be fine.
Sure, yeah, you say that now. He can always look back and say, I played for my home state school. Right. Now I can go get paid. You get to a point where you get to go somewhere and get comfortable, play a couple of years. All right, I did the doggone thing. Now where's the bag? And then just take the bag. He makes it when you get a little bit older, your views on life change, man. When
that is true.
21 years old, you start thinking, okay, what type of house? What's my first house gonna look like? What's my first car gonna look like?
Right.
Oh, you showed me a bag? Okay. So I can't blame him. It's just the way the college football world works. So college sports, it's sad. It stinks when money can take away loyalty, can supersede loyalty. But it's the reality. I love watching the kid play. He's an athletic freak. He reminds me when Brian Urlacher was playing safety at New Mexico, the way he jumps around in his athleticism in the middle of the field. So I'm not saying he's going to turn into a linebacker or go to the Hall of Fame, but I just remember him. Urlacher returned kicks. He made big plays back there, and that's what Parrish is doing.
So are you in agreement then 7 is the magic number for us to call this a good season, a successful season?
I agree. I'll agree with the 7. So I think 6 would be better than I expected, but 7 would be a success. And PJ can, start rolling the boat all the way to the Music City Bowl, wherever he ends up at.
So they got to win this one if they're going to do that, Lavelle. So we'll talk about, I'm sure, that maybe a little bit more next week. We'll see what the topics are again. Thanks for joining me here today, and we'll do this again in a week.
Sounds good.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Good stuff from Lavelle, as usual. I think that nicely frames up some of the stuff I'm going to be watching for in the next few days. Vikings game tonight, obviously. Timberwolves game at Sacramento has some intrigue as well, just based on how poorly that opener went against the Lakers on Tuesday. I would like to see them have a bounce-back performance. Let's just put it that way. Gopher football Saturday against Maryland. That's a big one as well. Hey, World Series starts tomorrow. It's just that time of year. It is terrific. Let's finish with the cooler, a team worthy of our attention that maybe doesn't get as much this time of year because of everything else going on. Gopher volleyball team swept Northwestern last night. They are ranked number 15 in the country, 13-6 overall, 6-3 in the Big Ten. Looks like Keegan Cook has that going in the right direction again. So a nice win for them. 25-18, 25-19, 25-17. Very solid over Northwestern. Northwestern not one of the better teams in the Big Ten, but a solid win for the Gophers nonetheless. That will do it for me today. Phil Miller expected to join me on tomorrow's show to talk Twins, roster breakdown, sale of the team, TV stuff, all that I want to catch up with Phil on. And of course, I will talk plenty of Vikings on tomorrow's show coming off of Thursday night's game, probably some Wolves as well. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow.